probably in my entire ministry. And one of the things that happens when you start getting old like me is that you begin to say, I've been around the block once or twice, but in my entire ministry, older people have said to me, oh, I'm sure glad I'm not having children now. The way the world is going, man, I just wouldn't want to raise. It was bad enough raising children when I was trying to raise my children, but boy, now I wouldn't run the risk. And there are people who are still saying that. And we look at our world, and with global warming and all of the pollution and all of the things going on in the financial crisis where everything's headed for the pits, then one can say, wow, how are we going to survive? And it would be possible for people just to give up and to despair. And the gospel is saying to us, that's not where we operate. We operate with anticipation because we know that in the middle of all of this mess, your redemption. And in this case, that means deliverance from the difficulties that plague our world. Your redemption is getting nearer. It's a word of rescue. It's a word of hope. It's not saying, panic, now is the time to push the button, the panic button, and just panic all over. It's rather saying, now is the time to live with hope. And so when Jesus goes on in the gospel lesson to describe life, he says, don't join the people who say, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you may die. So go have, a drunken brawl. You might as well, because you're going to croak. Somebody's going to push the little red button and nuke the whole world. Rather, he says, you live out your life with a sense of soberness, with a sense of knowing who holds this world with all of its turmoil, with all of its anxiety, with all of the things going wrong. Who holds that? And in a sense, can wad it up at the end and throw it aside and say, you still are secure. And he wants us to see that the picture of that person is God, and that God is at work in the person of Jesus Christ, this Son of Man who comes in his glory, this Son of Man who comes with the kind of power to be able to manage all the principalities and powers, all of the things that look so much like they have all of the power to control us. The powers in our world do exert a lot of influence. Try to say no to some disease. If you've got it, you can't just say, well, I'm not going to. I'm going to have the power of positive thinking. I won't have it. Chances are you will be in a hospital with that sort of maneuver. If we say no to the policies of any government where we happen to live, and say, I'm not going to go along with that. I'm not going to pay any taxes to support that. There isn't a government in the world, at least that I know of, that won't take your property from you and maybe in some cases deport you from their country if you don't go along with the program. The powers in our world do exert lots of influence and they have lots of control in our lives. And Jesus is still saying, when you see all of that, stand on your feet, lift up your head, and know the Son of Man is coming. The redemption is near. So when we draw to the end of the calendar year and this beginning of the church year, as we look forward to what is the future going to bring, then instead of pessimistically looking at all of the things that could and do and can possibly go wrong, then Jesus is saying to us, because of what God has done in me, in Jesus, in God in the flesh, then know that God has overcome all of the powers, all of the things that can go wrong. And know and live with hope. Amen. The peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, keep your hearts and minds through faith in Christ Jesus. Amen.